I'm back. Hey, Becca. I'm back. I'm just making myself an additional coffee. Did you just have book club? Yeah, I'm still having book club. I just got off to post a video real quick, and I'm making an additional coffee, and then we will get back to reading another chapter. We will be reading again shortly. Why were you confused, Becca? What happened? Why am I so confused? Hello. Hi, everybody. Wait, did she already do this? What's happening? Hi again. I'm making myself another couple shots of coffee because I need them. Hi. We're going to read another chapter here in just a sec. I'm going to nap for a bit while you read. Sounds good. Sounds great. I love that. My hair is looking very fluff-tastic. I only have 1 cup of coffee today, so that's why. Yeah, I'm about to have my second literally right now. My nails are so painted, you guys. Oh, man. Wild times. Like, not painted with nail polish. Like, they got paint on them, I mean. Tell me you're an artist without telling me you're an artist. You know. Hey, Shira. Ugh. All right. Coffee, coffee, coffee. I didn't make a full cup this time. Hey, that would be a lie. I have 0 artistic talent. Do you still have paint all over your hands? Probably not, right? Okay. My This Is Slime mug and I are going back to... Ooh. I hate when I see people saying, wear your sunscreen. I don't burn. You should wear your sunscreen anyway. Your coffee looked amazing. Thank you, Dorley. It tastes pretty great, I have to say. I am a big fan of the Nespresso machine. Big fan. Big fan. Oh, I just got an alert that Shira posted a video. I'll have to watch it when my sound's doing the no syncy uppy thing again. No! Oh, that's awful. I'm sorry, Anya. Oh, thanks for the new follow, Clover Flower Butterfly. Okay, so let's read another chapter. Maybe if you close out and come back in, Anya. All right, so you should dye your hair purple. Yeah, I have. I might again, you know. It feels icky on my skin. You got to find a different one then. It's a video of Jenna's Dice Harrison. She got it. Yes, I did see it. She sent me a picture of it and she said she loves it. All right, so we are going to read chapter 21. Chapter 21. From the Ashes. The secret path weaved through the countryside, crossing rivers without bridges, and climbed over mountains that roads had never been built on as the carriage traveled through the kingdoms. Jack and Goldilocks were very attentive to the land surrounding them, and so far they hadn't encountered any problems during their covert tour. However peaceful the land outside the carriages was, though inside of the third carriage was another story. I don't know why I'm so curious about your next color. We haven't really decided yet. We've kind of been debating a whole bunch of different things, but I do have some ideas that I've been sending Ryan. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Red had managed to bite her tongue since they left the fairy kingdom. She and Little Bo hadn't said a word the entire trip, and the others just stayed silent, if afraid any conversation might send the two into a vicious argument. Instead, as if they were watching a tennis match, Froggy, Bree, and Emmerich watched Little Red and Bo exchange spiteful glances back and forth. I added Brian on the pickup. Ah, nice. The silence finally became too much for Red, and she tried speaking to Little Bo as diplomatically as she could. So, Little Bo, Red said, have you enjoyed being queen of your kingdom? Yes, was all that Little Bo replied. She stared at Red stoically and didn't look away, as if Red was playing a childish game she didn't want to participate in. Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way, Becca. The others in the carriage traded uncomfortable looks. It was inevitable that this conversation would end in disaster. Good to hear, Red lied through a clenched jaw. Have you fulfilled all the promises you made to the people during the election? Almost, Little Bo said, and her stoic expression didn't fade. Wonderful, Red peeped. And how are the House of Progress representatives? They were all replaced with actual representatives from the village, Little Bo informed her. Red couldn't help but let out a high-pitched snicker. The others relaxed a bit, seeing her so amused. Perhaps there was a chance that they would be civil to each other. Well, I guess they had it coming, she said. And what about the castle? Have you grown accustomed to it yet? I'm sure it took you some time to get used to it compared to that farmhouse that you lived in before. I still live in the farm, actually, Little Bo said. Red suddenly gagged as if she had swallowed a bug. Do you? She asked, trying her best to remain calm. Then why did you ask me to move out of it? Because I turned it into an orphanage, Little Bo said with a snide smile. Red sat incredibly still while her brain processed this. And then, as if her animalistic instincts had taken over her body, she lunged towards Little Bo with her fist raised in the air. I'm gonna kill her, she yelled. Froggy had been preparing for this moment and immediately grabbed a hold of her before any damage was done. It took Bree and Emmerich's help to keep her in her seat. You lousy piece of shepherding trash! You did that on purpose! You knew giving my castle over to a bunch of brats would hurt me the most! Red, how can you say that about orphans? Bree scolded. Oh, don't let the word fool you. I've met all of those delinquents myself, and each one of them is more awful than the last. Most of their parents are alive and well, and the kids are just too horrible for them to raise on their own, Red said. Little Bo didn't deny the reasoning behind her actions. She just sat across from Red and smiled mischievously. Red eventually cooled off enough for the others to let her go. Emmerich decided to change the subject before anyone got hurt. What is your necklace? Emmerich asked Little Bo. No one had ever pointed it out before, and Little Bo was surprised he'd noticed. A chain so thin that it was almost invisible rested around her neck and was tucked neatly away into the top of her dress. She pulled the necklace out and showed him the small heart-shaped rock hanging from it. It's a stone heart, she said. Why do you wear it? Emmerich asked. Little Bo didn't know what to tell him since no one had ever asked before. I lost someone I loved very much once, she said. I wear this necklace to remember them, and in a strange way, it helps me from missing them too much. Did they die, or did they just run away from you? Little Red remarked with a snort. Little Bo didn't respond. She played with the necklace in her hand and smiled at the former queen. Her presence alone aggravated Red much more than anything she could say. Things weren't quite as lively in the first carriage, and the passengers were starting to grow restless. Princess Hope was very agitated from being cooped up for so long, and she began to cry. Cinderella held her daughter tenderly in her arms and rocked her until she fell asleep. Sleeping Beauty admired her mothering skills as she sat across from her. You are so good with her, Sleeping Beauty said. It makes me miss my own mother so much. Me too, Cinderella said. There are so many times I wish my mother was still alive so I could ask her if I was doing the right thing. If a better mother exists in the world, I certainly haven't met her, King Chance told his wife, and that includes my own mother. King Chase laughed at his brother. Yes, our mother was a good person at heart, but she was rather cold at times, he said. Sleeping Beauty smiled and then gazed out the window sadly. The subject of mothers had recently become a very sore one for her. Do you think if all the chaos ends, Cinderella said, but quickly corrected her choice of words, when all this chaos ends, the two of you will want to start a family? Chase placed a comforting hand over Sleeping Beauty's as she fought against the tears forming in her eyes. There was something she hadn't shared with them yet. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, Cinderella said, but she didn't know what she was apologizing for. No, it's all right, Sleeping Beauty said. Unfortunately, due to the effects of the sleeping curse, I and many other women in our kingdom have been left unable to bear children. Cinderella and Chance were devastated to hear this. Oh, dear friend, I am so sorry, Cinderella said, but there was nothing she could say to comfort her. Sleeping Beauty looked back out her window before their sympathetic faces awoke any more pain and frustration. Some things are just not meant to be, I suppose, she said. The carriage became very quiet. The secret path curved across the border between the northern and eastern kingdoms, and Sleeping Beauty recognized the landscape around them. We're home, she announced to her husband. I would recognize these hills from miles away. Her voice faded and her mouth fell open. Suddenly, something came into view in the distance that sent shivers down her spine. Before she could tell the others what she was seeing, she opened the window and stuck her head through it. "Stop the carriages!" Sleeping Beauty yelled up at Jack and Goldilocks. Jack and Goldilocks pulled out the reins and the carriages started to slow down, but Sleeping Beauty had jumped out before they came to a complete stop. She ran straight towards what she had seen as fast as she could. "Wait, where's the fire?" Jack called after her. "Where are you going?" Goldilocks asked, but the Queen didn't respond to either of them. The others in the traveling party stepped out of their carriages to see what the fuss was about. Once the royals saw Sleeping Beauty running in the distance, they sprinted after her but didn't go very far. Sleeping Beauty stopped at the edge of a village that no one else had seen and stared at it in horror. The village had been viciously attacked. Most of it had been burned down, but the smoke still filled the air with parts of the village still ablaze. Not a living soul could be seen or heard. The village was so severely damaged that all the kings and queens knew it must have been caused by the Grande Armée. Only their weapons could have left such an ugly mark on an innocent town. "I don't understand," Sleeping Beauty said. "Why does my kingdom always seem to suffer the most in times of crisis?" Snow White stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. "The Eastern Kingdom may be the first to see the sun set, but also the first to see the dawn," she said. Her comforting words were unheard as Sleeping Beauty was distracted by the noise among the flames. It was a sound so faint she couldn't tell if she was actually hearing it or if her mind was playing a trick on her. "Do you hear that?" Sleeping Beauty asked. "Hear what?" Snow White asked. "It sounds like crying," she said. The others didn't hear anything. The sound came again, and this time Sleeping Beauty bolted towards the village. "Beauty, please come back," Chase called after his wife. "It's too dangerous," Cinderella said. "Don't worry, we'll get her," Goldilocks said, and she and Jack ran after the Queen. Sleeping Beauty let the sound guide her. She got closer, the louder it came. She pushed through the doors of a crumbling, burnt-out home and stepped inside. She had to cover her mouth from all the smoke in the air, and the crying was so loud she knew it must be real. Jack and Goldilocks found the Queen and heard the noise themselves, clear as day. "What is that?" Goldilocks asked. "Sounds like a baby," Jack said. "Over here," Sleeping Beauty called out. A small chest was buried under a pile of debris that had fallen from the ceiling. Jack and Goldilocks helped Sleeping Beauty lift the rubble off the chest and open the lid. An infant girl had been hidden inside the chest and was surely the sole survivor of the Grande Armée's raid. "I don't believe it," Goldilocks said in amazement. "How did you hear the crying?" Jack asked. Sleeping Beauty couldn't explain it either. "I suppose I was meant to hear her," she said, and scooped her up into her arms, and the crying infant went silent. Goldilocks was eyeing the roof above them. "We need to get out of here fast." The three of them ran out of the home with their new discovery just as the roof collapsed. Sleeping Beauty had saved the baby's life seconds before it would have been lost. They returned to the traveling party, which was still waiting at the edge of the village. They were all just as astonished to see the surviving infant. "Whose baby is that?" Bree asked. "Well, as far as we know, she's an orphan," Sleeping Beauty said. "Well, I know of a great castle you can send her to if you need an orphanage," Red said, and gave Little Bo a dirty look. Sleeping Beauty was smiling down at the baby she cradled with a warmth in her eyes the others had never seen. "I do too," she said. "She's coming to live with us." Chase stepped toward his wife to talk sense into her, but once he saw the infant's face, he felt what his wife was feeling. The child had been waiting for them to save her. "What about the royal bloodline?" Chandler asked what the rest of the group was thinking. "If any of you are concerned with blood, I invite you to take a look around the village and see the blood of my people that has been spilled here," Sleeping Beauty said. "This child is a survivor and a child of the kingdom, and therefore worthy heir to our throne." Although Cinderella and Chance were the only royals who knew Sleeping Beauty couldn't have a child of her own, none of them objected. The child was a beacon of light in a very dark time. If she could survive the wrath of the Grande Armée, they could too. "What will you name her?" Cinderella asked. Sleeping Beauty exchanged a smile with all the kings and queens, and her tears of joy came to her eyes. They all accepted the child of this spontaneous adoption as one of their own. "Well, since she was found in the ashes of the village, I think I'll name her Ash," she said. "Princess Ash of the Eastern Kingdom. It has a nice ring to it," Froggy said. "She's beautiful," Rapunzel said. Red stared at the ransacked village, and a heavy pile of guilt felt in the pit of her stomach. All her anger and woes about losing her throne seemed so small in comparison to what the world was facing. This attack could have happened in her kingdom, and the thought angered her more than anything ever had. Red marched up to Goldilocks. Everyone expected her to start an argument, but she surprised all of them with a request. "Teach us to fight," Red said. "Excuse me?" Goldilocks asked. "I want to learn how to fight this army myself," Red explained to the others. "This could have happened to any village in any of our kingdoms. This wasn't an attack on the Eastern Kingdom. It was an attack on all of us." "Okay, let us know, Becca. Let us know." "I refuse to sit back and watch the Grand Armée destroy everything we loved so much. If I die, I don't want to die in a cozy carriage or a throne room. I want to die fighting alongside our people." The royals all looked at one another as her words touched each of them. They were surprised, impressed, and most important, inspired by what Red said. They all took a step towards Goldilocks, united in the request. "I do have a pretty decent upper body strength from cleaning my stepmother's house every day," Cinderella bragged. "And we could use a break from being cooped up inside those carriages," Snow White shrugged. Goldilocks was impressed by their interest and withdrew her sword from its scabbard. "All right, then," she said. "Your Majesties, each of you, please find a large stick. The first thing I'm going to teach you is how to use a sword." Mother Goose stood on the grand balcony of the fairy palace and gazed at the stars in the night sky. She quietly prayed that wherever the twins and Lester were, they were succeeding in their efforts to recruit the armies. But most of all, she prayed that they were safe. Emeralda rushed to the balcony. "Mother Goose," she said breathlessly, "it's the fairy godmother. She's awake." Mother Goose's spirit soared high as she almost floated into the air. "For good?" she asked. "From the looks of it, I would say only momentarily," Emeralda said. "She seems extremely tired, and she's asking for you." Without wasting a second, Emeralda and Mother Goose ran to the fairy godmother's chambers. Mother Goose kneeled by her bedside and took her hand in hers. Her eyes were open but very heavy, as if she had just awoken from a very deep sleep and was about to fall into another. "Hello there, my dear friend," Mother Goose said softly to her. "Emeralda, would you please give Mother Goose and me a moment alone?" the fairy godmother asked weakly. Emeralda nodded and left the chamber. "Mother Goose, I have something I need to ask of you before I go," the fairy godmother said. "Go? But where are you going?" Mother Goose laughed. "The Poconos? Martha's Vineyard? Palm Springs?" "You know where I'm going," she said. "I do," Mother Goose said sadly. "But I was hoping there was still a chance you'd be sticking around. What is it that you need to ask me?" The fairy godmother's eyes grew heavier the more she tried to speak. "Over the years, I have kept many secrets for you," she said. "I've only asked you to keep one of mine, and I'm asking you to keep it even after I'm gone." Mother Goose knew what her friend was referring to without having to ask. "Yeah, I assume you're talking about the other heir," she said. "Yes," the fairy godmother said with a deep breath. "If Alex hadn't proven herself to be the true heir of magic, I wouldn't be lying in this bed. Her compassion is both her greatest strength and her greatest weakness. If she ever knew there was another, if she ever found out who they are, she would be fooled the same way I was, and it would destroy her." "I understand," Mother Goose said. "You have my word. I will keep your secret, and Alex will never know." The fairy godmother smiled at her oldest friend. "Thank you," she said with relief. Her eyelids became too heavy to hold open, and she drifted back into a very deep sleep. She slept even more peacefully than before, now that this had been addressed. Mother Goose sighed and squeezed the fairy godmother's hand. Keeping the fairy godmother's secret would be the hardest challenge she would ever face. Aww. So we're going to be at chapter 22 tomorrow. And there are 31 chapters total. So we're pretty close to the end. I kind of want to read another one, but maybe we'll do it later. So anyway, we're getting close to the end. We are getting close. All right. I'll see you guys later. I got to get to work and do some stuff so I can take more things to the post office. There's a lot of packages going to the post office tomorrow. Everything from yesterday. All right. Bye, guys.